Enjoy talking with Centerstone and love that they are back on the show with us. Elaina Ward is going to join us now. And did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Good. I botched something in an interview. I was getting nervous, you know. Well, good morning and happy Wednesday to you. Take me through, if you could, Elaina, just your background and your position with Centerstone.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, and thank you for having me. So I started with Centerstone about 7 years ago. So it's been a fun ride over the last couple of years. I started with the company as a counselor in our methadone program, then moved over to a supervisor in our outpatient program. Then I moved on over to our quality improvement department, and then now I am our CCBHC manager. So I've had my hands in a couple different pots over the years.
So you've got to experience a little bit of all of what Centerstone has to offer, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's been my favorite part about being there.
Well, and take me through that a little bit. You know, what have you been able to kind of experience for yourself through the various roles that you've been a part of to see what Centerstone's been able to do for not only the region, but really for the nation?
Yeah, so being able to provide direct counseling services was really great when I first started. I was able to, directly take everything I learned in my social work grad program and directly apply it with clients. I got to grow a lot personally just within that. There's a lot that comes out when you're working with folks on a counseling capacity, and having to kind of navigate that yourself is always interesting, especially when you're brand new in the field. And then getting to kind of stretch my legs and grow a little bit in supervisor capacities has always been a really big growth area for me. Being able to see just the direct change that happens when clients are given the support that can really change their lives. We do all kinds of things, and that has also been really kind of just beneficial and great to see that there's a lot of different things that can really positively impact anybody.
Well, and on top of that too, Elaina, I mean, today we're going to be talking about the CCBHC and really just the great work that's being done with that. And let's kind of dive right into this. Take me through really what the certified community behavioral health clinics are all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So they have been around since about 2014. Different states have been able to kind of not buy in, but join into the process and that model. Illinois just recently in the last year decided to join that initiative. And so what CCBHC is, it's a really a different shift in model of providing services. So typically we've been in kind of a fee-for-service world where it's been really hard to grow. We've really just been able to kind of meet the immediate needs of clients, but not really able to grow and expand and support our staff in the different ways that are beneficial. Because community mental health work is hard, and that is a lot of hard stuff that folks are doing on a daily basis. And so with CCBHC, we have some additional services that we provide. We have a whole 9 core services that we are required to provide to clients. But then also with that and the different model, we're able to provide different supports to staff as well. So we've been able to kind of provide some different funds to be able to pay for trainings. That is always a high need for our staff.
Well, and it seems like really it's just an all-around approach to and a wraparound care for everyone that's involved on this, kind of spoke of the wheel, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the goal of CCBHC. Open door, no wrong door. Whatever you need, we're going to try to help you with, meet those needs, trying to provide that holistic wraparound safety net kind of care.
Well, and, this goes back to just our conversation last year that we've had with Centerstone and throughout the year we did have last year, but also a little bit of this last initial conversation with you guys as well, is the fact that, mental health and a lot of these chronic conditions, sometimes you guys are seeing those not hand in hand, but someone that goes in with maybe experiencing a mental health crisis or any type of, substance use disorder, you name it, they're going in and also realizing that, wow, I have A, B, D, or C going on. And you're also getting their actual, their health back in order too, on top of the very important aspect of the mental side.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of co-occurring concerns and illnesses out there. We see a lot of unmet physical health needs in a lot of our populations. And with CCBHC, we're able to address those needs in a different, more integrated way. So that is a key component of CCBHC, is integrating that care. So if someone walks through Centerstone's door, the goal is that whatever your needs are, we're going to get you linked up with someone to be able to address those needs.
Well, and on top of that too, whenever you're looking at that person, the moment they walk in, take me through that initial interaction. How important is that first conversation? Because I'm sure, especially in some circumstances, that first interaction is almost priceless when it comes to, the experience and result of your guys' care.
Yeah, absolutely. That first interaction is so important because that person has made that giant step and that giant decision to seek help and to seek care. That's always something that we encourage people to do because it can be life-changing. But that is huge because they've made the decision at that point. So really, our first interactions are really just basic. What do you need from us? How can we immediately help you today? So we're usually going to triage a little bit, make sure that there's no immediate crisis needs that we need to take care of. And then from there, we're going to get that person linked up, usually with an assessor that is going to assess and do a full comprehensive assessment of that person's needs to then get them linked up with the appropriate services.
What are some of the challenges that go into that? And I know that sounds kind of like a catch-all question, but I know that it could be. But whenever someone comes in and you guys are dealing with and working with these individuals, what are some of the hiccups that come up along the way? Or is there anything that families can know about for themselves or family members in case they have to utilize this to make the experience better for everyone involved?
Yeah, really the biggest thing that I always encourage of everybody that comes in for services is we are here to help you. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is we just need you to be open and honest with us so that we can get you the best services that we can. Not telling us all the information or not, sharing all the information with us isn't going to help in the long run, right? We can't get you your needs met. But also just acknowledging that is also scary and that is hard to share all of that information too.
Right.
Biggest things are if you feel like you need someone there to support you or share some additional information, that is absolutely welcome. Please feel free to bring that person with you or whatever you need to feel comfortable. We will meet you where you're at. If that means that maybe you do just need, a Zoom session for that initial assessment, we will do that. If you prefer to come in person, we'll do that too. Really just kind of trying to identify what is going to make you the most comfortable in being able to be vulnerable and share some information that is hard.
Well, and see, I think that's the biggest, obviously one of the biggest hurdles there could be is, breaking that, wall down of distrust or maybe, the lack of trust that folks have after the experiences that they go through, and no one can take that away from them, and so when you're going into there, and let's say maybe you are a supporter or a loved one of that individual that's utilizing your guys' services, what are some of the ways that that you recommend, maybe after the appointment or after the first couple of assessments that you can have a conversation that's beneficial to the individual that's going through this, that like you said made that big step and made that choice, that's not going to sound confrontational or also one where we're maybe enabling too, because there is that balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So big things are sometimes after the first session or two, I've also been through this. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like this isn't working. This isn't helping. Right. I want to be fixed already. That's a natural feeling, right? Like we want things to improve quickly, but that's just not always going to be the case. Therapy and counseling take time. Right. These are things that, we just need to be patient. We need to continue to just be supportive and encourage that person to continue trying. If they really feel like something isn't a good fit, really encourage them to bring that up. Not everybody gets along with everybody. And so that's okay. If you don't get along with your therapist or your caseworker or whatever the case is, we can always make changes and, do treatment differently to meet someone where they are and what their preferences are.
100%. And, just kind of diving into a little bit more of what you guys do directly, can you fill me in on the direct services, just so I don't get anything confused with, maybe some of the partnerships and some of the other things that you all are collaborating on? What are some of the direct services that are right here in your guys' clinics?
Absolutely. We provide a whole bunch of stuff.
You were ready for that one.
Yeah. We provide a whole array of services. So starting from kind of our lowest levels of care, we provide outpatient mental health and substance use counseling. We provide psychiatry services, We provide methadone and Suboxone, Vivitrol medication-assisted treatment. We provide targeted case management services. So those are services that are in the community, case management, directly working with folks in their homes a lot of times to meet their needs. We have an assertive community treatment team as well that is doing that, but on a little bit more of an intensive capacity. We're in the schools, we're in people's homes, we are everywhere. So we provide a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, and see, I just think that's such a great thing for the public to know about too, because, you know, we see the signs or we might drive by the Centerstone building here in Alton and not realize, you know, just some of the ways that you guys are really that invested into a region. And it's really important to know about that too. And just following up and touching on real quick, you know, you said you're in the schools and you're in all of these places where you really you should be, honestly. And just, you know, I know like in Madison County, they're starting to do mental health first aid training for middle schoolers and elementary schools, which I think is really great to do. Whenever you're talking about partnerships and just some of the services that you provide maybe that aren't directly sourced, how does that collaboration work? And then can you fill me in on a few?
So the collaboration, it really just kind of depends on the individual and their needs. So sometimes it's just a direct referral of, hey, we actually don't provide that service, but here are some agencies that do.
Gotcha.
And here's your information. Sometimes it's a little bit more of a coordinated approach though. So we partner a lot with like Southern Illinois Health Foundation for that integrated care piece that we were talking about earlier. So with those clients, especially, like we will provide that direct referral. We will support them in making that appointment.
Wow.
We have an SIHF office in our Alton facility. So sometimes we'll pop down there with the client and say, hey, someone needs this to schedule an appointment. How can we help? And then from there, we provide some care coordination type services. If the client needs support in following up and, you know, asking more about their medications or something, we have some staff that specifically their main job is to do that care coordination. So making sure that no one is fallen through the gaps and that they are able to kind of meet their needs independently with some of that additional support.
Well, and this kind of goes hand in hand to one of the other questions I was going to ask you later down the road here in a couple of minutes, but I'll ask it now. Is, you know, it sounds more, you know, really being an advocate in some ways for that individual. And I don't want to say patient because, you know, I don't really like that word. We're all people and, you know, whatever it's for, we're there. But, you know, whenever you're working with an individual, whatever it's for, how important is it for you, your staff at Centerstone, and everyone else to truly be an advocate? And also it goes on that person too to, in some cases when they're able to, be that self-advocate and they find that again. You know, how important is it to really, you know, kind of push in a way with, you know, not breaking down the glass walls here, but to make sure you're getting across the finish line?
Absolutely. That is a key part of a lot of the services that we provide. I know just in my experience and being a counselor several years ago, that was a big piece of what I was doing on a regular basis.
I'm sure.
Whether it's outside advocacy or just advocacy with the person themselves of training, teaching them and giving them those skills to be their own self-advocate. That is always something that pops up, at least at some point in everybody's care. And so just with the nature of kind of how community mental health work has worked in the past, there hasn't always been as much space and capacity to be able to do that to the extent that we've always liked. And so with the shift in the model of CCBHC, we've been able to hire some new staff that is their dedicated job. They are able to, you know, directly provide that care coordination type service, directly reach out and advocate and ask questions that the client maybe doesn't feel confident in being able to do themselves.
See, that to me is really just great to hear too, because, you know, everyone needs a little bit of help in life. And you know this, I'm sure so much better than I do, because I'm just, you know, here talking about it and you're living it. You know, when someone comes in, and this is kind of off topic from the clinic, but goes hand in hand still, how many times do they actually have a support system? You know, and I mean, it sounds like it's such a, like, kind of a tough way to ask a question, but it really seems to me that that's such a big part of the problem.
It really is. And that is a key part of the assessment. That is one of the big questions that we ask. Who is in your corner? Who supports you? Who do you have to back you up and be able to rely on? And just in my kind of anecdotal experience as a counselor, as a social worker, it's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks that they don't have support, or maybe they have some people in their life, but they're really the source of the problem. They're not the support person. Right. They're kind of the reason that person is coming in for services. it's been a huge issue that I've seen kind of just across the board in a lot of different ways and a lot of different clients.
Wow. And it's really, I'm just glad I asked you that, because it's I think such an important part of really just the whole equation when it comes to mental health and any type of recovery too. So, we already kind of talked about some of those barriers when it comes to trust and, making sure that you can be as transparent, as forthcoming as you can be with your staff. But, when it comes to, getting that individual inside and everyone's going forward, how do you track the success or the journey of that individual once they start the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of our assessment process is also creating a treatment plan. And so on the treatment plan, there's going to be goals that the client identifies, objectives that we collaborate on together to make sure that we're able to achieve that goal, and then specific interventions that staff are going to provide to achieve those objectives. So we have regular intervals where we review that treatment plan. Usually every 6 months. Different programs have different requirements though, so sometimes it's a shorter interval where we're specifically looking at that assessment, that treatment plan, those goals, and saying, all right, 6 months ago, your goal was whatever it may be. Where do you feel like you're at now?
Right.
Do we still have that goal? Do we need to make some changes and adjust targets? Or did we achieve that goal? Have we met it? And now we maybe need to identify something else. Or have you graduated from services and you don't need us anymore? So we're checking in pretty regularly on making sure that those goals are still active or adjusting them if we need to.
What has your success rate been just from your experience with it? Have people been really able to achieve that kind of that graduation rate in a way?
Yeah, it really depends on what the person comes in for. We have some folks that they graduate pretty quickly because they came in for, one specific need that was addressed and met pretty rapidly. But then we have other folks that they come in and maybe they started with one need, but over time they realized, oh, I do have some other things that maybe I need to work on in counseling. Or maybe they came in with a lot of needs. And it's just something that we're going to need to be working on for several years. There's a lot of skills that need to be built, maybe.
Do you ever talk to somebody or work with somebody that maybe comes in and they don't have, and, it starts off with something small, and this is, I don't know why, I had a conversation the other day. It makes so much. So if you're coming in, if someone had maybe, a feeling of anxiety, for a couple of months, like, most people can get, and it gets worse and then it gets worse and they don't tackle it. Have you ever had those experiences where someone maybe just didn't address something that, I don't want to say ever minor, but just, one of those spokes on the mental health wheel that grew into something 10 times bigger that is kind of spurred from that? Does that make sense? Am I making any sense with that question?
Yes, you are absolutely making sense with that question. And yes, I've absolutely seen that, because that's what tends to happen with mental health diagnoses, right? Like someone doesn't just wake up with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder on a random Tuesday. Usually things start smaller and then they kind of grow over time. Anxiety specifically is one of those diagnoses that's what it does. The more we ignore anxiety, the stronger it becomes, the more difficult it becomes to manage it. And then it kind of turns into a little bit more of a beast than it did when it started.
Wow.
So yes, absolutely. We see that all the time.
See, that to me is this is why I love talking with you all, because so many times I feel like if we just talk about this more, we can be more comfortable talking with our friends. And I don't know, I just think, I feel like it helps. And do you feel like having conversations, and I'm not never making light of it, maybe people do to cope with their friends, and that's cool too. But when we're able to talk about this more, does it make it get better? Or do you see that becoming an issue because we're maybe not talking about it as educatedly as we should, and then it maybe leads to different thoughts? That is like the two-sided sword to that.
Yeah, I definitely think talking about it, like whether it's your own experiences or just the concept of mental health, is always going to be a good thing. Because when we don't have those conversations, we don't know. Right. And when we don't know what we don't know, we're kind of living in the dark.
Then
right?
You're a talk show host.
Yeah. So I definitely think, talking about everything is absolutely important. I think what I have seen is some of the more like pop psychology sort of terms that are on like social media a lot, like gaslighting, narcissist. Those are now very commonly used terms that kind of come from the psychology world, but have been taken by pop culture and kind of turned a little differently.
Right.
And so I think like you said, it's a double-edged sword. It's a good and bad thing. We have the language to be able to talk about it now, but the definitions are shifting and changing a little bit as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it's on one of my rant sheets. I have a sheet of my rants that when the election's over, I get to go on, and gaslighting is definitely one of my rants because we have lost all definitions. I mean, we have just decided it's just not the same. So with that being said, back to really this great work that you guys are doing with these clinics. Can you take us through maybe a success story? I mean, we never want to talk about a patient's personal details or anything like that, but anything that you've seen that really makes you go, wow, I'm proud of the work we're doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share one from just, I think, last week, actually.
Oh, wow.
So with opening CCBHC and that model, we have been able to reopen our resource room at the Centerstone Alton location. So that's a room that is basically a drop-in room. Anybody can come in. They don't have to be a client. They can be a community member, anybody. And so we have some folks that operate the resource room that are peers. They have some lived experience of their own. And can provide just any resource needs to folks. So we've had a gentleman who has been using our resource room pretty consistently over the last couple of months or so. He has some pretty high needs. And so we've been doing our best to meet him where he's at, provide him with the needs that he has, but also respecting his preferences. At the time, he wasn't interested in receiving more services than just the resource room for a while. We had an incident where he became a little bit upset with a staff member because she couldn't provide what he needed. And so we had to have a conversation of, the resource room is for this purpose. We really would love to get you in for some additional services, though. Yeah. How can we make that happen? So our our access coordinator, Brianne Graham, and one of our linkage and engagement specialists, Lacey, met with the client. Met him where he was, like I said, and his big barrier was, I don't want to sit through an assessment. I've done that so many times. I just don't want to do it again. So we were able to work with him to gather the specific information that we needed to complete that assessment in a timely manner, so he didn't have to sit longer than what he was uncomfortable sitting for. We got him linked up with services, so now he's part of our targeted case management program, and he's actually able to get the services that he really needs.
Wow.
In the community.
That's incredible. And that really does show, because it's not a 30-second story here. It takes time, and it's really good to hear that, that's really what's developing out of that, and really the help that someone definitely deserves and needs. With that being said, Elaina, I know that we've been talking here for almost actually over 20 minutes now, and we're getting down the line. My final question for you is, what strategies do you guys have in place? Are there going to be more of these clinics popping up, or coming to fruition throughout the region, throughout the state? And where are some of these located now, just for the folks across our coverage map?
Yeah, absolutely. So the state of Illinois has, I believe, it's either 9 or 19. I always forget which one.
I hear you. I'm not laughing at you. 9? I do that all the time.
It's either 9 or 19 other CCBHC locations. And so we're part of what they're calling a pilot. So it's a 4-year pilot demonstration project. So each year they are planning on adding additional sites. They just recently opened the application for the next round of sites to expand. We are hoping to be able to expand to some of our further south locations, but that is up in the air right now. We're not sure on that. But there will be more sites opening with that second expansion with the state of Illinois. There is some information on the state's website. The HFS website has a CCBHC area, so you can find some other CCBHC locations. Just off the top of my head, there's Rosecrans, there's Heritage. Those are two kind of more so within our region. There's a lot in the Chicago area, though, as well, because that's a higher density population.
Makes sense, though, and it just shows you, where you guys see a need, you're trying to fill it, and it's really and it's such an important thing. And Elaina, before I let you go, can you fill us in on just your guys' overview of this with this clinic as a whole, and then also ways that we can kind of find out more information if we need this for ourselves, for a loved one, or anytime down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find our information on our website, just centerstone.org. That is where you can very quickly find our phone number, give us a call. We can get you in for an assessment. You're also welcome to stop in the office, and we can do walk-in assessments as well. We have, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff as well that you can find us on. And then I'm so sorry, I forgot your first question.
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Is there anything else that we needed to get out about the clinics? That's always my final question.
Yeah, so that's just the big thing. We have some additional service lines now. We have some additional supports that we're able to provide that we historically haven't been able to. We also have some additional staff supports, so funding for CEUs and trainings. We have some additional trainings that we're offering as well. So we have positions open if there's anybody out there that's interested in joining the Centerstone team. But then also we are also absolutely serving any clients that or individuals that need services too.
Wonderful. Well, Elaina, thank you so much for stopping by. Always love chatting with Centerstone, and I can't wait to get the opportunity to talk with you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
We'll take a quick break. More Daily Show on this Wednesday morning.